I worked 2 jobs to save our marriage. Then I found out my wife was using the money to fund her secret life. I am 55 years old and my back feels like it is held together by rusted wire and cheap adhesive. Every morning when I wake up at 4 to get to my first job, my knees pop with a sound like a pistol shot. I used to take pride in that sound. I used to think it was the soundtrack of a man doing what he had to do for his family. I was a provider. That was my identity. That was the only thing that mattered. Now I know it was just the sound of a man being ground into dust by the person he loved most in the world. My name is Mark. I have been married to Sarah for 28 years. We have 2 grown children, a house in the suburbs that was supposed to be our nest egg, and a life that looked perfect from the outside. We were the couple everyone relied on. We hosted the 4th of July barbecues. We were the ones who always had a spare room for a struggling nephew or a casserole for a sick neighbor. I was an electrical contractor by trade, running my own small business for 2 decades. Sarah handled the books. She handled the house. She handled our social calendar. 2 years ago, Sarah sat me down at the kitchen table. The lighting was stark, highlighting the new lines of worry around her eyes. She had a stack of papers in front of her. She told me we were drowning. She said that between the inflation spikes, the slow months in my contracting business, and the help we had given our son for his tuition, we were $80,000 in the hole. I stared at the spreadsheet she had printed out. I am a tradesman. I understand wiring diagrams, load-bearing walls, and blueprints. I never enjoyed the financial side. I trusted Sarah. She was smart, organized, and prudent. Or so I thought. The numbers on the page were red and angry. She explained that we were at risk of losing the house if we didn't stop the bleeding immediately. I felt a cold pit open in my stomach. This house was everything. It was where we raised our kids. It was our retirement. Losing it would be a failure I could not survive. I asked her what we needed to do. She told me we needed $6,000 extra a month to clear the high-interest debts and stabilize the mortgage. My contracting business was steady, but my body was slowing down. I couldn't pull double shifts hanging drywall or wiring panels like I did in my 30s. So I did the only thing I knew how to do. I got a second job. I kept my contracting business running from 7 in the morning until 3 in the afternoon. Then, at 4:30, I clocked in at a massive distribution warehouse 30 miles away. I drove a forklift and loaded pallets until 1 in the morning. I did this for 22 months. I missed birthdays. I missed anniversaries. I missed sleep. I ate gas station sandwiches for dinner and drank lukewarm coffee to stay awake on the drive home. I became a ghost in my own house. I would come home, shower the warehouse grit off my skin, and collapse into bed next to a wife who was already asleep. She would leave a note on the counter. Love you. Keep going. We are almost there. Those notes kept me alive. I pinned them to the visor of my truck. The warehouse was a young man's game. My supervisors were 24 years old with clipboards and stopwatches. They yelled at me for moving too slowly. They docked me for taking bathroom breaks that were 2 minutes too long. I swallowed my pride every single night. I let them talk down to me because I had a goal. I was saving my marriage. I was saving our home. I was the protector. Every 2 weeks, my paycheck from the warehouse hit our joint account. Every month, my draw from the contracting business went in there too. Sarah moved it immediately. She told me she was paying down the creditors directly to avoid interest penalties. I never checked. Why would I check? She was the one who saved coupons. She was the one who mended my work shirts instead of buying new ones. She was the martyr alongside me. Or so I believed. The crack in the facade didn't happen with a bang. It happened with a flat tire. It was a Tuesday in November. The warehouse shift had been brutal. We were ramping up for the holiday rush, which meant mandatory overtime. I had worked 12 hours on the concrete floor. My ankles were swollen to the size of softballs. I was driving home at 3 in the morning on the interstate when my rear passenger tire blew out. I pulled over to the shoulder. It was freezing rain, naturally. I didn't have the energy to curse. I just got out and changed the tire. When I went to put the jack back in the trunk, I realized I had left my heavy tool belt in Sarah's SUV the weekend before when I fixed a loose railing at her mother's house. I needed a specific wrench from that belt to tighten the lug nuts properly. I was 3 miles from our house. I limped the truck home on the spare, praying the wheel wouldn't fly off. I pulled into the driveway. The house was dark. Sarah's SUV was parked in its usual spot. I unlocked her car with my spare key to grab my tool belt from the back. When I opened the trunk, the interior light of the car flickered on. My tool belt wasn't there. But something else was. Sitting in the cargo area were 3 large, glossy shopping bags from a high-end boutique in the city. The kind of place where they don't put price tags on things because if you have to ask, you can't afford it. I frowned. Sarah hadn't bought new clothes in years. She constantly complained about needing to dye her hair at home to save money. I reached into the bag. I pulled out a cashmere sweater. It was soft, heavy, and gray. The receipt was tucked into the bottom of the bag. $450. I stared at the slip of paper. My brain couldn't process it. That was a week of groceries. That was half a mortgage payment in the old days. I looked at the date on the receipt. It was from yesterday. 2 p.m. She had told me she was at her mother's house helping with cleaning. I dug into the second bag. A pair of Italian leather boots. $600. The third bag contained a men's watch. It wasn't a Rolex, but it was a Tag Heuer. $2,000. I froze. I don't wear watches. I use my phone or the beat-up Casio I've had since 1998. This wasn't for me. I stood in the driveway, the freezing rain soaking through my work shirt, holding a $2,000 watch. My hands were shaking, and it wasn't from the cold. The exhaustion that had been my constant companion for 2 years suddenly vanished, replaced by a surge of adrenaline that made my vision blur. I put the bags back exactly as I found them. I locked the car. I went inside the house. Sarah was asleep. She looked peaceful. The room smelled of lavender. I stood over her for a long time, listening to her breathe. I wanted to wake her up and scream. I wanted to throw the watch at her. But I didn't. The business owner in me took over. You don't fire an employee until you have the documentation. You don't confront a client until you have the contract. I went to the guest room and lay down, but I didn't sleep. The next morning, I acted normal. I drank my coffee. I groaned about my back. Sarah made me toast and kissed my cheek. "You look tired, Mark," she said, her voice full of that practiced sympathy. "Just a few more months. The spreadsheet looks better. We've paid off the credit card with the highest rate." "That's great, honey," I said. My voice sounded flat to my own ears, but she didn't notice. She never really looked at me anymore. She looked past me. "What are you doing today?" "Oh, just errands," she said, washing a dish. "Mom needs to go to the podiatrist. It's going to be a long day sitting in the waiting room." "Okay. Drive safe." I left the house, but I didn't go to work. I called my foreman and told him to handle the morning site visit. I parked my truck down the street, around the corner, where I had a view of our driveway but she couldn't see me. At 9 a.m., Sarah walked out of the house. She wasn't wearing her usual errand clothes, sweatpants and a denim jacket. She was wearing a tailored wool coat I had never seen before, black heels, and sunglasses. She looked 10 years younger. She looked expensive. She got into the SUV and drove off. I followed her. I felt ridiculous. I felt like a cliché. A 55-year-old man in a rusted pickup truck tailing his wife through the suburbs. But I had to know. She didn't go to her mother's house. She drove 40 minutes north, toward the wealthy side of the county. The houses there have gates and names like Fox Hollow and the Estates. She pulled into a shopping center that had a Whole Foods, a spa, and a wine bar. She parked and walked into a coffee shop. I parked 3 rows back and watched. 5 minutes later, she came out. She wasn't alone. She was linking arms with a woman I didn't recognize. This woman was dressed to the nines, heavy jewelry, designer bag. They were laughing. Sarah threw her head back and laughed in a way I hadn't seen in a decade. They walked to a real estate office. They went inside. I sat there for an hour. My mind was racing. Was she buying a house? With what money? We were broke. We were $80,000 in debt. I was destroying my spinal discs to pay for interest. When she came out, she was alone. She got back in her car and drove to a luxury apartment complex called the Avery. It was a massive brick building with a doorman. She pulled into the underground garage. I couldn't follow her in without a key card. I parked on the street and waited. I waited for 6 hours. I watched rich people walk their poodles. I watched delivery trucks drop off packages from Amazon and Nordstrom. At 4 p.m., Sarah drove out. She headed home. I beat her there. I was sitting on the couch when she walked in, carrying grocery bags from the discount store near our house. She must have stopped there on the way back to establish her cover. "Hey," she said, startled to see me. "You're home early." "Sight got rained out," I lied. "How was your mom?" "Oh, you know. Her bunions are terrible. The doctor kept us waiting for 2 hours. I'm exhausted." She put the cheap groceries away. Ground beef. Generic pasta. The staples of our austerity budget. "Sarah," I said. "Yeah. I need to see the bank accounts." She froze. Just for a second. Her hand hovered over the refrigerator handle. Then she turned, smiling. A tight, brittle smile. "Mark, we go over this every Sunday. You know, looking at the daily balances just stresses you out. I have it under control." "I want to see the login," I said. "I want to see the actual bank website. Not the spreadsheet you print out." "Why are you being like this?" Her voice pitched up. "Do you not trust me? After I've been scrimping and saving and taking care of everything while you work." "I just want to see the account, Sarah. I don't have the password written down. It's auto-saved on the laptop, and the laptop is updating right now," she stammered. It was a stupid lie. "Fine," I said. "I'm going to take a shower." I didn't take a shower. I went into our home office. I found her old tablet in a drawer. I knew she synced her passwords across devices. I guessed her passcode, our son's birthday. It unlocked. I opened the banking app. The balance in our joint checking account was $1,200. That was expected. Then I looked at the transaction history. Transfers. Dozens of them. 2,000 here. 3,000 there. All going to an account labeled S-Main. I clicked on S-Main. It wasn't an external bill pay. It was another savings account at the same bank. One I didn't know existed. I opened it. The balance was 0. But the transaction history on that account told the whole story. Money came in from our joint account, my warehouse money, my contracting money. And then it went out immediately. Venmo to Lucas V. Zelle to the Avery Management. Debit card purchase, Nordstrom. Debit card purchase, Sephora. Debit card purchase, Lou Bernardin. I felt like I was having a stroke. The room spun. Lucas V was our son, Lucas. He was 25. He was supposed to be living in Chicago, working a tech job, independent. We had been so proud of him. I pulled up the statements. Over the last 2 years, the exact time I had been working the warehouse job, Sarah had transferred over $70,000 to Lucas. And the Avery Management? That was the apartment building I saw her go into. The rent was $3,000 a month. I sat there, scrolling. The dates matched perfectly. Every time I worked a double shift, she bought herself a dinner. Every time I missed a holiday, she sent Lucas a bonus. There was no debt. There never had been $80,000 in debt. The crisis 2 years ago? A fabrication. She wanted money. She wanted a lifestyle upgrade, and she wanted to fund our son's lifestyle because he had likely lost his job and she didn't want to tell me. She had turned me into a pack mule to fund a fantasy. I heard footsteps in the hall. Sarah stood in the doorway. She saw the tablet in my hand. Her face went gray. "Mark," she whispered. I didn't yell. I didn't throw things. I felt a profound, heavy silence settle over me. It was the silence of a structure that has finally collapsed. "Who lives at the Avery?" I asked. She started to cry. Not the pretty crying from the movies. Ugly, gasping sobs. It's a studio. For me. For when I need space. "Who lives at the Avery, Sarah?" "Lucas," she sobbed. "He lost his job 2 years ago. He was depressed. He couldn't pay his rent. I couldn't let him move back here. I knew you'd be so disappointed. I knew you'd make him get a trade job or work at the warehouse. He's too sensitive for that, Mark. He's an artist. So you rented him a luxury apartment? He needed a good environment to get back on his feet. And the clothes? The watch? The dinners? I have to visit him. We go out. I have to look the part. His friends, they are successful. I didn't want to embarrass him. I stood up. I have been lifting pallets of concrete mix for 22 months. I have permanent nerve damage in my right leg. I haven't seen a movie or eaten a steak in 2 years. I did it for our family, she screamed. To keep the peace. To protect you from worrying about Lucas. You didn't protect me, I said. You enslaved me. She tried to grab my arm. Mark, we can fix this. I'll tell Lucas he has to move out. We can sell the things. The watch, I said. Who is the watch for? She went silent. Is it for Lucas? She looked down. No. It was for a friend. A man I met at the club. The club. The social club at the Avery. I told them I was a widow. It just happened, Mark. Everyone there is so wealthy and happy, and they don't talk about mortgages or back pain. It was a fantasy. I just wanted to be someone else for a few hours a week. You told them I was dead. I said my husband passed away. It made things simpler. They bought me drinks. They invited me to galas. I needed the clothes to fit in. The watch, it was a birthday gift for the man who runs the wine committee. It wasn't sexual, Mark. I swear. It was just buying belonging. I looked at this woman. I had shared a bed with her for nearly 3 decades. I had held her hand through births and funerals. And she was a stranger. She was a parasite who had fed on my sweat and pain to play dress-up and coddle a grown man who refused to work. Get out, I said. What? This is my house too. Get out. Go to the Avery. Go live with Lucas. I'm changing the locks. You can't do that. Watch me. I walked past her to the bedroom. I took the pillow from the bed. I took my clothes. I went to the guest room and locked the door. She pounded on the door for an hour. Then she left. I heard the SUV peel out of the driveway. The next day, I didn't go to the warehouse. I went to a lawyer. We are in the middle of the divorce proceedings now. It is ugly. She wants alimony. She claims she has become accustomed to a certain standard of living, the standard I killed myself to provide while she lied to me. I found out more truths during discovery. Lucas isn't depressed. He's been partying. The social media photos I found, which Sarah had blocked me from seeing, show him on boats, in clubs, wearing clothes I paid for. He looks healthy. He looks happy. He has never once called to thank me or apologize. Sarah's widow persona was extensive. She had a fake backstory. She told people her late husband was an inventor who died of a rare heart condition. She erased me while I was still alive, sweating in a warehouse 5 miles away from her fantasy world. I kept the truck. I kept the house, though I had to refinance to buy her out of her share, which kills me. But I kept my dignity. I quit the warehouse job. The first night I didn't have to go, I sat on my porch and drank a beer. The silence was incredible. My back still hurts. My knees still pop. But the pain feels different now. It feels like healing. I look at the empty driveway where her SUV used to be. I feel lonely sometimes. But then I look at my bank account. The balance is growing. It's slow, but it's real. I am 55. I am starting over. But at least now, when I work, I know exactly who I am working for. I am working for me. Looking back on it now, sitting here in the quiet of a house that feels too big for one person, the warning signs were everywhere. I was just too tired to see them. There was the distance in her eyes when I talked about my day. I would tell her about a difficult wiring job or a near miss with a falling pallet at the warehouse, and she would nod, her eyes glazed over, already thinking about her next lie. There were the mysterious phone calls she would take in the laundry room, claiming it was her sister. The way she guarded the mail. I remember one night, about 6 months into the second job. I came home so exhausted I was slurring my words. I sat at the kitchen table, still in my high-vis vest, and told her, Sarah, I don't know how much longer I can do this. I feel like my heart is going to give out. She had rubbed my shoulders, a quick impersonal squeeze, and said, "You're strong, Mark. Think of the finish line. Think of the debt-free life." She was looking at her phone while she said it. Probably texting Lucas about a dinner reservation. The cruelty of it is what sticks with me. It wasn't just greed. It was a complete lack of empathy. She watched me deteriorate. She watched me limp. She watched me age 5 years in 20 months. And she didn't care. As long as the checks cleared, I was useful. I spoke to Lucas last week. He finally called. Not to apologize, but to ask if I was really going to cut him off from the family phone plan. "Dad, come on," he said. "Mom is a mess. You're being really harsh." "Harsh?" I asked. "I carried boxes for 2 years so you could pretend to be a venture capitalist. You're 25, Lucas. Get a job." "You don't understand the job market," he sneered. "It's not like when you were young. You can't just walk onto a construction site." "You're right," I said. "It's harder. But you know what's easy? Lying. And you and your mother are experts." I hung up. I blocked his number. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. He is my son. I remember teaching him to ride a bike. I remember his little league games. But the man on the phone was a stranger. He was a product of Sarah's enabling and my absence. I have reconnected with my daughter, Emily. She lives in another state. She didn't know about any of this. Sarah had lied to her too, telling her I had taken the second job because I had a gambling problem I was trying to pay off. When I told Emily the truth, she drove 10 hours straight to see me. She sat with me in the living room, looking at the bank statements, crying. "I thought you were losing your mind, Dad," she said. "Mom told me you were manic. She said you were obsessed with money." "She was projecting," I said. "Emily is helping me redecorate. We are painting the walls. We are getting rid of the beige furniture Sarah loved. I bought a leather recliner. A big, ugly, comfortable chair that Sarah would have hated. I sit in it every night. The divorce is almost final. The lawyer says Sarah will get some of my 401k, which stings, but I will keep the business and the house. She is living in the studio at the Avery with Lucas now, but the money is running out. Without my income, the rent is impossible. I heard from a mutual acquaintance that she is looking for work. She applied to be a receptionist. I hope she gets it. I hope she has to stand on her feet for 8 hours a day. I hope her back hurts. I hope she comes home tired. I don't wish her harm. I just wish her reality. For the first time in 2 years, I am sleeping through the night. I wake up at 6, not 4. I drink my coffee on the porch. The sun comes up, and the world looks different. It looks honest. I have scars. My body is broken in places that won't ever fully heal. My trust is shattered. But I am free. And that is worth more than any luxury apartment. I wanted to share this story not for sympathy, but as a warning. If you are the one carrying the load, make sure you know what's in the wagon. Make sure the person walking beside you is actually pulling their weight, not just riding along and dragging their feet. Check the accounts. Ask the hard questions. Don't accept I'm handling it as an answer. Because the person you trust the most is the one who can hurt you the worst. I'm going to go to work now. Just one job. My job. And when I come home, the house will be quiet, but it will be mine. Update. 3 months later. I didn't expect this post to blow up the way it did. I've read your comments. Some of you called me a saint, some called me a doormat. You're both right. I was a good man who let himself be used because I thought that's what love was. Love isn't servitude. I know that now. A few things have happened since I first posted. First, the divorce is finalized. The judge was not impressed with Sarah's financial creativity. Because she had hidden assets, the secret account, and misappropriated marital funds for a separate life, the settlement was much more favorable to me than I expected. She didn't get alimony. The judge ruled that since she was capable of maintaining a high-end social life and managing complex, albeit fraudulent finances, she was capable of employment. Sarah and Lucas were evicted from the Avery last month. The money I stopped sending dried up fast. Lucas apparently tried to sell the furniture, but most of it was leased. They are currently living in a 2-bedroom apartment in a much less desirable part of town. Sarah is working as an administrative assistant at a dental office. I saw her once. I was at the grocery store, the same one she used to pretend to shop at. She was in the checkout line ahead of me. She looked tired. She wasn't wearing the designer coat. She was wearing sweatpants. She looked at the total on the register and put a bag of cherries back. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Then I remembered the nights I slept in my truck in the warehouse parking lot because I was too tired to drive the last 10 miles home. I remembered the way my knees burned. I remembered the lies. I didn't say hello. I just moved to another line. My business is picking up. I hired a young guy, a kid named David, to help me with the heavy lifting. He's eager to learn the trade. I'm teaching him everything I know. It feels good to be a mentor again, instead of a mule. I've also started dating. Nothing serious. Just coffee with a woman named Linda I met at a hardware store. She's a widow. A real one. She likes fishing. She drives her own truck. She asked to see the check when we went to lunch. I almost cried. I'm rebuilding. My credit score is recovering. My back is getting better with physical therapy. My daughter Emily comes to visit once a month. We grill steaks. We talk about real things. She told me Lucas called her, asking for a loan. She told him to apply at the warehouse. He hung up on her. We laughed about it. It's a dark laugh, but it's better than crying. Life goes on. It's harder than I thought it would be at 55, but it's also simpler. No secrets. No spreadsheets that don't add up. No performances. To everyone who is grinding themselves down for someone else, stop. Look up. Make sure they are looking back at you, and not at the reflection of what you can give them. I'm Mark. I'm a contractor. I'm a father. And I'm finally, truly, awake.